When you read the business press, you're led to believe there are such things as great companies and not so great companies. But if you look closely, you realize that that's a fiction. There's no such thing as great companies. There are great teams and not so great teams. And if you work for a not so great team in a supposedly great company, it feels not so great. The experience of the team trumps the experience of the company. Now, when we go into an organization, we study the best teams in the hopes of finding out what they have in common, with a view to building more teams like the best teams. And when you do that, you find that there's huge range in performance, team by team by team, within the same company. Here's an example. It's a large retailer. And the premise of the company is that the more affluent the community is where we put the store, the more money that particular store should make. Now, if you plot out all the stores on two variables, profitability and local economic potential, you see a beautiful red line going from bottom left to top right, which I guess proves the point. The more affluent the community is, the more money the store makes. So far, so good. But if you actually plot out the stores themselves on those two variables, you see a huge range. You'll see a blue dot way down there at the bottom that's making a lot less money than you'd have predicted, given the amount of money available in the community. And then if you let your eye go straight up, you'll see that there's a store that's making a lot more money than you'd have expected, given the amount of money available. Now, every single one of the blue dots are stores. Each one of those stores has got about 100 people working in them, and they've got a whole bunch of customers coming into the stores. Everyone in those stores is paid the same way, they're trained the same way, they come to the same physical location, and they're trying to sell the same products to the same kind of customers in the same kinds of towns. And yet, it isn't one company, is it? What's going on in the store at the top that's different from what's going on in the store at the bottom? To answer that question, we're going to turn to the Gallup Organization, a research company. They interviewed over the course of 10 years over 1.4 million people on over 50,000 different teams. And though they find that the best teams have many things in common in terms of a feeling of being developed, of good relationships, a sense of mission, of purpose, they did find that one clear question predicts most effectively and most consistently whether you'll be on a high-performance or a low-performance team. At work, do you have an opportunity to use your strengths every day? Those teams where people say that they do consistently outperform those teams where people say that they don't. Even if people are slightly positively deluded about what their strengths are, doesn't seem to matter. If you feel as though your strengths are being used more often, more frequently, you're going to be more profitable as an employee, more productive, more likely to stick around. You're less likely to have accidents on the job. You're less likely to sue. If you have an accident on the job, almost any productive outcome you care to think of seems to be driven by whether you, the team member, feel as though your strengths are in play. In fact, the data shows that those teams where employees strongly agree that they have a chance to use their strengths every day, they're going to be 38% more likely to be highly productive teams, 44% more likely to earn high customer sat scores on their teams, and 50% more likely to work on teams with higher employee retention. So we know from this research that the single most important driver of differential team performance is whether or not a person feels that their strengths are in play. And yet, we also know from the research that barely 2 out of 10 people feel that their strengths are in play at work. It's the single most important driver of team performance, and we struggle with it. So, what can you do to build an organization that, by design, gets more and more people playing to their strengths every day?